What happened on January 6th are fading fast, almost as fast as some Republican leaders are sprinting from a key question, whether GOP lawmakers were in communication with the insurrectionists. See how they run.
No, I don't think so.
Absolutely certain that none of your members were in any communication with any of the people who stormed Capitol Hill?
Thank you for the question. Everybody have a nice day.
Who knew House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy was so quick? It's as if the getaway car was parked just down the street. Over in the Senate, GOP leader Mitch McConnell, who initially sounded open to a commission, later showed off his cat-like reflexes, sidestepping the idea.
After careful consideration, I've made the decision to oppose the House Democrats' slanted and unbalanced proposal for another commission to study the events of January the 6th.
You didn't know he could move so fast, did you? Like a ninja. Now the bill to create a bipartisan 9/11 style commission may be doomed in the Senate. Surprised? Remember, it was McConnell who talked a good game around Trump's second impeachment trial.
They stormed the Senate floor. They tried to hunt down the Speaker of the House. They built a gallows and chanted about murdering the Vice President. They did this because they'd been fed wild falsehoods by the most powerful man on earth. Because he was angry he'd lost an election.
But McConnell also voted to acquit Trump. Not exactly a profile in courage, more like cowardice and calculation. That's because Republican leaders have made the decision to put next year's midterm election ahead of the good of the country, and that Trump is the key to winning back control of Congress. You remember the Mussolini of Mar-a-Lago writing in his blog, which has become his online diary, you could say. Trump demanded that Republican leaders shut down this commission, saying, hopefully Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy are listening. Were they listening? It's like he pressed his button for another Diet Coke.
This is driven solely by politics and Nancy Pelosi, but we should not be a part of that.
Another top Republican in the Senate, John Thune, pulled back the curtain on what this is all about.
Could be weaponized politically and drug into next year. Anything that gets us rehashing the 2020 election, I think, is a day lost on being able to draw a contrast between us and the Democrats' very radical left-wing agenda.
Thune is worried about how this affects next year, as in next year's midterm elections. Can you hear that? Rehashing. Can't have any rehashing. No wonder some in Congress are tearing their hair out.
We have people scaling the Capitol, hitting the Capitol Police with lead pipes across the head, and we can't get bipartisanship. What else has to happen in this country? Cops. This is a slap in the face to every rank and file cop in the United States. We need two political parties in this country that are both living in reality, and you ain't one of them.
The bill did pass the House with bipartisan support. There were 35 Republicans brave enough to stand up to Trump and his lies. Yay, democracy. Pass out the participation trophies. But hold on, 175 GOP members chose party over country, or in one case, party over family. Consider Congressman Greg Pence, Republican of Indiana, brother of, yes, former Vice President Mike Pence. His brother could have been killed, and yet Greg Pence said in a statement, and let's put this up on screen, this is unbelievable, quote, hanging Judge Nancy Pelosi is hell-bent on pushing her version of partisan justice, complete with a hand-picked jury that will carry out her predetermined political execution of Donald Trump. Hanging Judge Nancy Pelosi. Interesting choice of words. When it was a pro-Trump mob that built a gallows outside the Capitol on January 6th, an image not lost on one of the Republicans who did vote for the commission.
If it had not been for the brave Capitol and Metropolitan policemen and women that day, who knows how many of our heads would have been swinging on those gallows that were constructed on the east front of the Capitol.
But too many other Republicans are still busy rewriting the history of what happened that day.
You know, the fact of the matter is, even calling it an insurrection, it wasn't. You know, I condemn the breach, I condemn the violence, but to say there were thousands of armed insurrectionists, breaching the Capitol, intent on overthrowing the government, is just simply false narrative. By and large, it was peaceful protests, except for, there were a number of people, basically agitators, that whipped the crowd and breached the Capitol, and that's really the truth of what's happening here.
Peaceful protests. Tell that to the officers who were beaten by the traitors who stormed the Capitol. It was like something out of The Lord of the Flies to save the Lord of the Lies. Check out this new FBI video of what happened. Here's a man beating the police with a tactical baton. Then there's this other guy in the MAGA hat punching the police with metal knuckles. Doesn't look very peaceful, does it? McCarthy, for his part, recently had a photo op and bike ride with police officers, tweeting to all law enforcement officials out there, Republicans have got your back. But McCarthy, we just checked on this, still hasn't met with Officer Michael Fanone. I checked on this earlier this afternoon. Still hasn't happened. Fanone has been trying for weeks to show McCarthy his body cam footage, tell him what he saw, what he experienced as he was beaten by the mob. But McCarthy can't seem to find the time to listen. Why wouldn't Republicans want a commission to uncover these facts? Maybe it's because they want you to remember the lies.
If you didn't know the TV footage was a video from January the 6th, you would actually think it was a normal tourist visit.
Last week, we told you about Congressman Andrew Clyde, Republican of Georgia, who compared the rioters to tourists. Turns out he was on the floor of the House, looking pretty worried, standing behind a guy with a gun as rioters try to break into the chamber. It's time for a tour of the truth. If we can't even agree on what happened on January 6th, if we can't establish the facts, how are we going to stop this from ever happening again? That was the question put to the 9/11 Commission, which taught us a lot about the gaps in our security, about the way information needs to be shared, so that we could prevent another horrific day like that one. Why do Trump and some in the Republican leadership want to run from the truth? Is it because they're too busy looking for that getaway car to avoid the hard questions? Mitch, please. If you listen closely, I think you can hear the screeching of the tires.